Hey guys, Alex here from Computer Headquarters, and it's been a while since I made a video. I've just been very busy, and we've got holiday season approaching, trying to be prepared for holiday season. It's a lot of work, but I made some videos about how my water loop exploded, so to say. It was quite the nightmare, and I think I had like an update video at one point where I tested some of the parts, and they seemed to be working. And that was probably a month ago. And between here and there, I've had not a whole lot of time to keep working on this, but enough time to get some pretty big changes. So anyway, I'll give you the full scoop. This is probably going to be a little bit long for what it's worth, but this is kind of a video for people that like custom water cooling and that like Corsair products, but have had difficulties with them. So this is basically my final version of my computer. Wow, sorry, my Discord's so loud in the background. This used to be themed a little bit differently, and it was kind of like a black and red style with all the RGB was all red everywhere, and the coolant was red, and I've got the red and black cables there. So I have it all rainbow right now. I may switch it back to red RGB or LEDs just to match the cables. I don't know, and I kind of don't care, because this is like just to try to get me by until I get a 7000 CPU, which might be like within the next month. So this doesn't need to be perfect, and once I get that, I'll just retire this computer. And honestly, the more I've worked on this computer, I just really hate it. It's the bane of my existence. So where do I start? Well, the specs are still all the same. 5900X, 32 gigs of RAM. It's Corsair Dominator DDR4, I think 3600 megahertz. It has the Asus Crosshair 8 Impact motherboard. It's a pretty cool motherboard. I've got a custom distribution plate, block, whatever you want to call those things. And I have a Titan V video card here, and that has a custom water block on it as well, made by Heat Killer. Looks like I have a Corsair water block on my CPU, which I've been working with EKWB a lot lately. So in a perfect world, I would not have any Corsair products on my personal computer, and I would not have a Heat Killer that right there either. I've been trying to do everything EKWB because I've been working with them and doing business with them, and they're great. They're one of the best companies I've ever talked to. So I do support them, but I built this computer before we had that partnership. And my next computer, hopefully I'll have a bunch of EKWB stuff in there. All right, so lots of Corsair products. I probably, by the way, skipped the Thor power supply. I think it's the 850. I can't remember if it's 850 or 1200, but it's a Thor power supply. And this is the Asus ROG Z11 case. That's an ITX case, but does fit the BTX sized Impact motherboard up there. I kind of modified it. There used to be like an RGB cover right here, and now I cut that thing out. I pulled it out, and so you can see the power supply usage here. It is upside down, of course, but I'd rather be able to see it upside down than not be able to see it at all, because that is cooler than what was here. My original intention was to cut everything. See, there's like a little lip right there. I did want to cut all that lip off so that you could see more of the power supply, and I just never got around to it, and I never will. I also did not use colored fluid on this time around because of the nightmare that it caused last time. It just stained everything, and it was disgusting, and it smelled bad too. So I don't know. I don't remember what brand of fluid it was, but it was gross, and I think it was definitely like a top tier brand. It wasn't some garbage, but anyway, I redid the flow of the way that which tube goes where, and changed a couple little things, just because I think it looks cooler. Almost reminds me of like two elephant tusks coming down, and I don't know. I just kind of like how it looks like this better than how it was before. But let's get into the gross stuff, which is definitely I haven't put this all back together yet, and I've got like panels down here, and here's like the glass side panel, but the gross part is back here. It's real gross. Yeah, that's the rat's nest. And I had started cable managing it and getting it put back together, only to find out that something wasn't working. Something stopped working, which was the RGB on the distro plate up here and the RGB on my video card. As well as there was some other thing that was RGB that stopped working, and I just couldn't, tidy everything up and put it all back together without that stuff working. It would have bothered me too much. So I started doing some troubleshooting, and it ended up being a lot more time consuming than I had expected. So I bought these QL fans that are in here, and on top, so there are 5 QL fans. I bought them probably a year ago or less. Probably a year ago. And it came, if I remember correctly, with this Corsair RGB hub. I believe. I could be wrong, unless maybe I found this somewhere else, but I bought the stuff brand new, so I would assume this is what it came with. I think I bought like a 3-pack and then like 2 singles. The connection that comes off of right here is this, and this is like a 3-prong connection, which is different than the connectors that go into this, I should just say the connectors that go into here, which are 4 pin, right? So that's where the fans plug in right here. This 3-pin connector goes into what's called a node, which is kind of hiding back over here. Sorry, I can't see with the camera, but yeah, it's back there. And the node has 2 channels. And one channel right now is being used by the water block right there. And the other channel originally was this, would go to that, and then you would control your RGB hub from the node. Things just never worked quite that well, and I had some problems here and there, and when I tried to put it all back together, it just didn't work at all. And so when I started talking to some of my employees about it, they're like trying to figure it out with me too, and I explained how I had it wired, and they were like, what? You have this connected to a node? You should have this connected to the motherboard. And I was like, well, I mean, the cable, the way that cabling I have, it doesn't work that way. And they're like, oh, well, let's go grab, we have like literally probably 500 of these now, these RGB hubs that we got from Artesian Builds. And so I just grabbed a brand new one, and it's completely different wiring. Like, see, if you look at it right here, RGB hub, you can see this cable right here, this thick one, is a USB, like this type of guy, USB 2.0 header. And this cable right here is SATA power. So that's power, data and power, right? Whereas the old one had, the cables are coming off of 2 different sides. This must be like version 1 or something. And here's the SATA power, and then here's the data. But again, this data cable goes to a node. Maybe there was something when I bought this brand new that would have another cable that would go to USB, but I don't know. I'm not familiar with it. It's a long time ago. I don't know where that cable would be. So I used a brand new one, and it worked fine. But then it didn't, and this stopped working again, and everything that was RGB. I have a splitter cable, so if you look right here, this cable right here is it goes 4-pin Corsair, custom Corsair, to a 3-pin ARGB, and everything stopped working. And it took me a lot of time. I was using, there's a built-in USB 2.0 header splitter thing on this card back here, built into the case, and I don't know if that stopped working. So I went and got this NZXT one, and it seemed to get things back up and running. But also, I think part of the reason was I was being a doofus, and my video card is using a 4-pin RGB, which is not ARGB, and I had that plugged into a 3-pin splitter right here. So it's probably I think that was my problem, because 4-pin and 3-pin RGB use different power delivery and stuff, and sometimes I think you can even cause fires doing that. So I actually feel really dumb for have done that, but I must have just missed it. So now it's plugged in up there, if you can see it. That's a 4-pin RGB that was on the motherboard, and that's keeping it at least happy, getting some RGB. Maybe not syncing with all the Corsair stuff, but at least it's on. But yeah, back to this. So everything's working, but I've got not a lot of space back here, and these cables, these red and black cables, are insanely thick and stiff and very hard to position correctly and like zip tie down to make them flat. And obviously this is just a lot of stuff for a very small amount of space. It sucks, right? I've got this box, a SATA SSD, and the node back there, and this thing that I have to try to hide all behind the motherboard tray. The reason why I need the SATA SSD is because this motherboard we had in stock, it was missing the I think it's called SODIMM.2. Yeah, SODIMM.2. See that little slot like there? It looks like a laptop memory stick slot. That is where you'd put your NVMe SSD, and we had one that was just missing it, and I just was like, oh, I'll just use that. You know, I don't need the speed of NVMe when I'm at work. So I was just trying to kind of kill two birds with one stone, have it look awesome, and then it was like, we got it really cheap, of course, because I was missing that thing. So anyway, now that is biting me in the butt because I have all this cabling, and I think I had it at a point where it was all cable managed pretty well to put it all back away, and then I had to rip it all apart and it's a mess again. So one thing's for sure, when I get this all back together so I can put the back panel on, it's going to be a bird's nest. There's no way to make this perfect and clean, and I'm not going to keep using this computer, so I kind of don't care. I just want it to work, and that's pretty much the end of my escapades with this computer that I'm aware of. I hope it is. I may add to this clip once I clean all the cable management up and put the case back together. Maybe I'll show you guys one more just quick look around at it when it's all nice and neat, but for now I'm signing off until the next one. Yay, I think it's done, or put back together. I think it's a week since I recorded the last clip you just saw, and for the same reason all of this is taking so long, I'm just busy, you know, doing regular stuff every day, and I was able to get my work done with the piecemeal thing that was going on with this that wasn't perfect, and it's still not perfect and it never will be. This is just about as good as it gets, you could say. So just a quick little look around and a new nickname for this computer. So we got the front panel here. I have everything just on Rainbow Wave or whatever for the RGB. So we've got the ROG branded distro plate, which I believe was like, I think it's made by a different company. It might be Bixby, I can't remember, but I don't think they had authorization to use the ROG branding when they made that distro plate. It's like very made in China. I could be wrong. I'm just using regular distilled water right now for the fluid in here. It's probably not the best coolant in the world, but I think I mentioned earlier, I'm sick of the coolant staining everything. I literally, like, there are a couple little splatters of things I cleaned while I was in there, and like that's how much little drops of red, that's how much staining go onto like a little cleaning towel. Oh, look at that side. Disgusting. Looks like blood. Anyway, I mentioned I redid the way that the water, the tubes come off the water block. I think it looks way cooler like this, like elephant tusks, kind of, just like similar. The curves are kind of like similar. I don't know. You guys tell me. One thing that's not great is the cables down here. They just got all crazy. These cables are great, really high quality cables. I think they're cable mod cables, and they're just not very flexible because they're so thick. And when you're working in this tiny case, it's a big tiny case, but when you're working in a case this side with those type of cables, it's really hard to jam everything in. And the last little bit, getting everything to work just right, was actually one of the most annoying parts and the most time consuming of the work I did today. Just trying to cable manage the back so I could put the door on. So let's take you, okay, so you saw the front, this front side part of it you've seen, or I guess I'll show you the back. Nothing too special, power cable and stuff. There's no I/O back here because the I/O is all up there, and it all comes out this top hole out here. So that's why I also am like minimizing how many cables I have going in and out, and I've got a little USB guy over here. Here's the top. Let's see, some QLs up here. And then let's talk about that new nickname. You see that? You see that Boeing? So the new nickname can be Bowflex, because of how much bowing is going on in that back panel with all those cables shoved together. I thought I finished everything with like really good cable management, zip tied everything. There are so many controllers and different types of cables, different type of power connectors, such a mix of stuff. And I felt like I finally got it dialed in when I turned the computer on and there was no operating system. And I realized I didn't put a SATA power to the SSD, because I think I mentioned earlier it's a 2.5-inch SSD, because I was missing the SODIMM.2, another annoyance. So I had to take everything apart again and get an adapter cable I had that goes Molex to SATA power, put it all back together, turn it on again, still no beans. For some reason, the Molex to SATA power cable adapter thing just didn't work with the SATA SSD. So I ended up moving whatever that was powering to another device. I think it's actually the RGB controller, and it worked fine on the RGB controller, and then the RGB controller SATA power and moved to the SSD. So we're done. Freaking done. The funniest part about this is that I've already placed my order for Ryzen 7000 CPUs. They're going to be here like in a week. I've already placed my order for Ryzen 7000 motherboards, so X670 type stuff, X670E, B650. All that stuff is already ordered, and this will be replaced very soon. And to be honest with you, I'm actually glad I'm done with it and that it's buttoned back up, because this will go upstairs to what I call like the Hall of Fame, where all the employees here use the computers on their use computers on their work breaks, and they're kind of all like show-off computers that we've done over the years that are kind of just fun and collector stuff, or whatever you want to call it, and everyone uses them for gaming. And this will go up there for someone to game on, and it's a nice system for someone to game on. The Titan V is a little bit unusual and overkill for having as an upstairs used once in a while gaming computer. I don't know if I'll leave that in there, but out of pure laziness I probably will. That wraps it up. I'll keep you guys posted when I start building more systems that are Ryzen 7000. Bye.